Hello and welcome. This webinar is supporting augmentative and alternative communication at home. It is being presented in partnership with Alt+Shift and Michigan Alliance for Families, which are both grant-funded initiatives under the Michigan Department of Education, Office of Special Education. And we are very thrilled that you are joining us today for supporting augmentative and alternative communication at home. Just a note that in the course of this webinar, Alt+Shift, which I'm representing, we're going to attempt to share some best practices with you, but we will not be sharing any student-specific solutions as those are best determined by any student's IEP team. So if you are needing assistance with IEP meetings, Michigan Alliance for Families is a wonderful resource, and I will be sharing their contact information at the end of this webinar. If you need assistance with disagreement resolution or complex IEP meetings, Special Education Mediation Services is a program that we have here in Michigan, and their website is www.mikidsfirst.org. It is great to have you here watching this webinar today. My name is Carolyn Parker. I am an assistive technology and augmentative and alternative communication specialist with Alt+Shift. Prior to this, I worked in the schools for 10 years, and mostly all of the students that I worked with in that time used augmentative or alternative communication in some way. From there, I moved on to have experience at both the university and private practice levels. And so this means that I have also quite a bit of experience working with families directly to get AAC set up in their homes, which has been extremely valuable for me. And I also am the mom of 2 young boys, so I'm bringing that perspective today as well. So we're going to start off quickly just by talking about what AAC is or isn't. And this may be a review for you, but basically augmentative and alternative communication tools are any tool that we use if a child cannot fully rely on their verbal speech or their mouth words to communicate. So some students require what is called augmentative communication support. So I need another mode of communication to support my verbal speech. These are our students that might have a handful of verbal words or can use their verbal speech at some points throughout their day, but at other points throughout their day, those verbal words just aren't working in the same way. So we want to introduce what we would consider an augmentative tool to help support those verbal words and that verbal spoken language whenever possible. For other students, they might require an alternative communication tool, and that means that they need another mode of communication as a completely alternative support to verbal speech. So these might be students that, for whatever reason, they cannot rely whatsoever on verbal speech. They might have a trach tube, they might have vocal cord dysfunction, and so verbal speech is truly not an option. And so for them, an alternative mode of communication is going to be necessary for them to communicate with those around them. There are many, many different types of AAC tools, and you can see the spectrum of tools on this slide, but this is by no means a comprehensive list of all the tools that are available. So there are many AAC tools that fall into non-electronic categories. So these are more of our paper-based tools. You can see there are things like core vocabulary boards or paper-based communication books. Many classrooms around the state are starting to introduce these and have them as classroom resources. Then in the middle, we get into some of the tools that start to use a little bit of technology. They start to require batteries and a little bit more understanding of how to use them. So these are our single message communication switches and our sequential message communication switches. So you can see that big red or big yellow button. This is something where you hit that button and a pre-recorded message plays through a small speaker on that switch. The next level then would be the multi-level speech generating devices. So you can see there's a few different buttons on those devices. Again, when a student would push a button, a recorded voice would play a message through a speaker, and you're able to change those messages as needed for students. Then we get all the way up into our most electronic, high-tech tools. So these are things like apps on an iPad or another type of tablet for communication, or a dedicated generating device. A dedicated device is truly just a device that is only used for communication, whereas an iPad we know can have other apps or other type of tools available. So, as we talked about, we are working with supporting AAC communication at home. And so we are going to go through these 5 tips today. You'll hear a little bit in each one. And I also wanted to make sure that we had the perspectives of families that are actually currently using AAC at home. So in each of these 5 sections, you'll also hear some advice from parents talking about all of these areas of communication and supporting AAC at home. And so I hope that's helpful to you as well. So the first of our tips is to truly just get comfortable. So no matter what tool your child uses, we really want to make sure that as adults or as people who are supporting communication, we are comfortable with the tool and whatever it looks like to use it. So again, whether that is a paper-based tool like the one you see in the middle of the slide here, or up to a high-tech electronic device, we really want to make sure that we are comfortable using it and knowing how it works. So some of the helpful things to know, obviously, if the device has an on-off switch, where that is, how to control the volume is really important, especially as we're taking AAC with us. We know it's okay to have a louder voice in the grocery store, but we definitely want to know how to turn that voice down if we're at the library. And that's a great skill for us to learn as adults and eventually for our students to learn too. If the device has batteries or a charging port, how do we get to that and how do we change those batteries or charge it? Another great thing to know if the device is a higher tech device is how to record or program new vocabulary on it. And then where to find your child's preferred items or activities. So on those higher tech devices, many times they have categories like food or outdoor activities, and anything that your child really, really loves is great vocabulary to know and understand where to find that on a tool. So a lot of parents do ask me just how do I learn these things? And the easiest way is to truly just take time with the tool itself. Most of the families I work with say, after my child went to bed, I typically would take a few minutes with the device and just kind of play around with it. So get your hands on it. You aren't going to break it. Just take time to really learn that device. Obviously, bedtime, I know we're tired as parents, but it is a time when, typically our child isn't going to need that device to communicate. So it is a great time to do it. Put the kids to bed and just set yourself a timer for 10 minutes to go into the device and see how to record vocabulary or how to get into different folders or categories. Again, finding that preferred vocabulary first. So if your child loves macaroni and cheese, it's a great idea to try to find the macaroni and cheese buttons on those devices. Something that I love to do when I'm learning new vocabulary on a device, on those high-tech electronic devices. So if I'm learning a new app or a new dedicated device vocabulary, I try to use song lyrics or movie quotes to learn new words. So I'll go into the device and try to figure out how to type out one of my favorite song lyrics. For me, typically it's Taylor Swift right now, but for you, it can be anything. And that's a great way for me to learn new vocabulary. Another great way to learn is to ask for videos of staff using AAC at school. So if your child has staff members that are supporting them in using their AAC, it's absolutely wonderful as a parent to ask for videos, especially if you're saying, hey, I'd really love how to learn this tool. I would love to see some videos of this tool in action and someone using it. Would it be okay to send me a couple-minute video of you using the device at school? Most professionals are going to be extremely happy to share that with you. Something to consider if your child uses anything that is paper-based in that non-electronic side of AAC tools, it's great to ask for extra copies. So many families I work with have the paper communication boards or core vocabulary boards posted at several different areas throughout their house. So they might have one on the refrigerator, one by the door where they're putting coats and jackets and shoes on. They have one in the bathroom, one in their child's bedroom. So that's just easier than trying to take one piece of paper with you throughout the house. If your student uses an electronic tool, many of the device companies or software companies do offer free or less expensive versions of the software for caregivers or parents who are supporting their child. So that is something to look into, and it does vary by whatever app or software your child is using. So, some advice from a parent in this area. I wish I could have gone back and taught my husband and any family or siblings around my child how to use the device. In the beginning, I put so much pressure on myself to learn everything about this device, and it would have been helpful to have more help and support with my daughter and her device. So, some of us are taking this on alone, and that's okay if that's your situation, but the more that we can ask for support and have a team of people that are supporting this device is a wonderful thing. The second area of advice is just to keep those tools out and available. So we want AAC to be visible in our homes because that's how our child is going to know to use it. So again, those paper-based copies, keep them around the house, especially in places where you know communication is going to happen. So at the dinner table, at the front door, when you're transitioning out to the car, anywhere where is convenient for you. If you have an electronic tool like a tablet or a dedicated device, one thing that I've worked with families to do is have a communication station. And so this is one consistent place that you're going to keep the tool so you and your child both know where it is at all times. So a family I worked with, the mom decided that their end table in their living room next to the couch was going to be where they kept this device. Their child was fairly young at the time. So when he got home from school, she would take it out of his backpack. They had the charger right there. So she would plug it in and there it would be. So he would play around the house, he would run around. He was in preschool. So if he needed to use it to communicate, he could run and grab it and go take it to mom. Or if she wanted to use it to model some language, which we'll talk about in a little bit, she always knew it was in that consistent spot. And certainly they would take it, pick it up around the house and move it as they were communicating. But it always went back to that one consistent spot. And then in the morning, she would unplug it, put it back in his backpack, and then he could take it to school. So I always thought that was a great thing that they did. Another great piece of advice here is to start with just one routine. Starting AAC at home can be extremely, extremely overwhelming. This is something new for most of us as adults. And so it can feel really overwhelming when you're being asked to have AAC out and available at home. So many of my families that I work with truly just pick one routine to start with, and they only really focus on that one routine for a period of time until that starts to feel easier. So some of the routines families pick meal time, just making sure that device is out on the table or that paper-based board is out on the table, brushing teeth, getting dressed or putting pajamas on, or reading books after school or before bed. So once you get comfortable in one routine, I hope that you'll find that it's easier to see how this could work in other routines as well. Some advice from a parent. Ensuring our child has access to their device all the time has allowed them to teach us new ways to use it too. So this is a parent who was very overwhelmed with AAC when it was first introduced. She chose to just introduce it at meal times, and they pretty quickly saw how powerful it was in meal times. So they made it a point to make sure it was with them all the time. And once they were able to do that, their child really blossomed, and that language and communication really blossomed with them as well. But so this is the goal, to have them with it all the time. But again, starting small is definitely okay. I'm going to show you a quick video now about modeling language. So this is a video that shows the concept of language modeling. It's also called aided language input, if you've heard that term. This is the concept of really using an AAC device to show a child how to use it. So it's also known as teach A or speak AAC to teach AAC, and you'll be able to see a little bit more here.
Modelling. Use AAC to teach AAC. No matter where you are in your adventure to build communication with AAC, modelling is a valuable strategy. Modelling means you point to words on the AAC tool as you speak. Ready, set,
Go.
go! Look, I like this book. Ah, look, we go to places, more outdoor places. Beach.
We go to beach.
We went to the beach. You cannot simply place an AAC tool in front of someone and expect that they will know how to use it to communicate. We need to model. AAC learners need to see AAC in use to communicate real messages in real situations. So, point to words on the AAC. When you first start, it can be difficult and feel clumsy. Everyone feels that way at first. Start small and build up your modelling. Focus on a few words to model at first. Every time you model, it will get easier. The most important thing is to start, give it a go. Get others involved. Who else in the team can model? Get friends, family members, classmates and siblings modelling. The more the merrier. Now, you can model on your iPad or device, or even on a paper-based version. Model throughout the day, especially during real, meaningful and motivating activities. Model in conversations. Show how you can use different words to communicate different messages. You do not have to model every word that you say. And sometimes the grammar might be wrong. All these things are okay. Modelling does not need to be perfect. You will make mistakes. Every time the learner sees you model, it builds their knowledge. Your modelling will help them to learn how they can use words to communicate. Make it fun and enjoy the adventure. For more information, read our full article.
All right. So that is a wonderful SLP, Amanda Hartman, talking about modeling language. And I love how easy and simplistic that she makes it. So again, modeling language is truly just using their device to show them how to use it. Okay, so it's a similar concept to if we were teaching a child a new language. If we wanted a student to learn Spanish, we wouldn't just speak English to the child and expect them to learn Spanish. We would want to be exposing that child to as much Spanish as possible. It's the same thing with AAC. If we want them to communicate with AAC, we also need to use the AAC ourselves. So something that's really powerful that she touched on in the video is modeling through the mistakes. So letting your child see you make mistakes while you're modeling is really powerful. It shows them that communication is a risk and that we all are going to make mistakes when we communicate, and that's okay. So this is just an example of what modeling through a mistake might look like. So you might say, I'm wondering what you might want for Christmas this year. I'm looking through a device for the word Christmas. I think it's in the days and times folder. So let's look. I'm going to go into that folder. Oh, wait, that's not in here. I need to go back. I'm going to use the search button to search for it. Oh, Christmas is in the holidays folder. Let me go into holidays. There's the word Christmas. Okay. So it teaches them that we don't need to be perfect when we're communicating all the time. Some advice from a parent in this area. My daughter was most motivated in having the device around when we were coloring. So we would point to colors we were using on her device or playing with farm animals. Again, tapping each farm animal we were playing with. We started slowly from there and it got easier. So again, these were the routines that they decided they were going to model during. So coloring, and they would just, when she picked up the purple crayon, they would touch purple on her device. Same with the farm animals. As she would choose different farm animals, mom would point to the animal and press the button to have it say cow or horse or pig. And slowly they saw how to build that into more routines throughout their day. A lot of people want to know what modeling looks like in real life. You saw it a little bit in the first video, but this next video is a very powerful example of modeling. It is two sisters and they are in a store. And the one sister, it's going to be her birthday. So her older sister is modeling in a communication book, and you'll see what that looks like.
The full line of premier BMWs are at BMW of Silver Spring.
I just want to say, I'm telling you something going to happen. Events. Your birthday's tomorrow. Your birthday will turn 10.
Well, there's so many aisles. Let's look over here.
Maddie's thinking. What are you looking for?
Oh, I'm asking a question.
She's reading upside down. Maddie has a question.
What do you want for your birthday? What do you want? Do you want dolls? Do you?
Why don't you give her some choices and then something else?
Do you want dolls? Yeah, you want dolls like this?
You don't need choices? That's what you know what you want?
You want dolls? Hey, do you like this doll? Do you? Do you like it?
All right. That is a beautiful example of modeling between those two sisters. So you saw she did a couple of really wonderful things. You saw her model through her mistakes. So she couldn't remember where a word was, and she kind of looked up at her mom, who helped her through that. She also did something wonderful where she was modeling on the communication board or on the communication book, but then she also looked at her sister, and when her sister nodded her head, she accepted that form of communication as well. So that is another great thing, is that you might be modeling communication on an AAC device or on a tool, and your child might still choose to communicate with you in a different way, and that is absolutely okay. So some advice from a parent here. Sometimes it can be frustrating teaching your child where or how to access new words. Be patient. Don't be upset if they follow along or choose to tell you something else instead. Communication at home may still need to be a combination of AAC use, facial expressions, gestures, etc. AAC definitely opens a whole new window of opportunity, however. This goes into, this is such a beautiful transition into the next area of advice, which is encourage but don't require. So that video was a great way to show what is called multimodal communicator. So all of us are multimodal communicators. We use a huge range of communication throughout all of our days. So that includes, for us, a lot of verbal words, but we also use things like facial expressions, gestures, if your student uses ASL or manual signs. So communication is always going to be a combination of all of these. And that's something that we really want to encourage for our students. So just because we're introducing a tool like AAC doesn't mean that we want our student to fully rely on that tool. We want it to just be another thing that they can rely on. So we would want to avoid using phrases like, now use your words, or say it on your device, especially if that's something that your student or your child has already communicated to you. So in the video, you saw that she asked her sister if she wanted a doll, and her sister said yes, and she accepted that as a response. So that was a beautiful interaction. What we wouldn't want to do is then have her sister say, like, You shook your head yes. Now tell me on your device, or now point to the word in the book. Her sister gave a response, and it was one that everyone understood. So we then would move on with that communication. So a great example of multimodal communication in action. An example is you're asking your child what they would like to eat for dinner. So you might be on their device and looking at the food page, and you might say, do you want pizza? And model pizza on the device, or macaroni and cheese, and push macaroni and cheese. Your child might simply point to the icon for pizza, but they might not press it. So you would say, oh, you want pizza? I wonder if you want cheese or pepperoni. Your child says, pa. And you would say, oh, I heard you say pa. I wonder if that means you want pepperoni. Your child nods their head yes. So you used a mixture of AAC, facial expressions, vocalizations from your child, and pointing. That is a wonderful communication exchange between you and your child. Advice from a parent here. I wish I would have created less pressure of forcing communication and let her take the lead a little more, instead of trying to overwhelm her with words. She does best with a supportive environment that encourages and reinforces AAC without pressuring or forcing communication. The last, number 5 bit of advice today is truly to find your team. It is a huge learning curve to learn any communication tool, whether it is paper-based or a high-tech electronic device. So just give yourself some grace with that in terms of understanding that it's going to take time to learn this. The other point I really want to hit home is that it is absolutely okay to ask professionals about their experience with AAC. And it's also important to know that professionals have very different experience or training with AAC. Some people had experience learning in their graduate or undergraduate programs, and some did not. And some have worked with many students who use AAC and some have not. So it's okay to ask a professional, what do you know about AAC? And if they don't have experience, ask if they would be willing to attend a training, okay? Ask if they would be willing to either attend a training with you or watch a webinar. There are so many wonderful resources available in our technological world today. Like we heard in the beginning, encourage any family members, friends, or other significant people in your child's life to learn with you. The more people that you have in your support system with AAC is a wonderful thing. There is a wonderful blog post that I would encourage you to read as well, which you can see the website on the bottom there, assistedwear.com/blogs/parents-collaborate-AAC-team. So it's just a wonderful blog post talking about the collaboration between parents and caregivers and professionals. A wonderful tool is to share photos and videos. I know we've touched on this a little bit already, but sharing those photos and videos between the professionals that are working with your child and home is a great way to stay connected, to problem solve. If you have something that really isn't working at home and it seems to be working at school, sharing photos or videos to kind of collaborate and work through some of those problems. And it's also a great way to hold people accountable if that's something you need to do. If you are active on social media is also a great way to learn with and from each other in terms of other families that are supporting AAC users or AAC users themselves. So on Facebook, AAC Family Fun and Communication First are 2 families supporting AAC users. And on Instagram, the first 3 are, the first account, Fighting for My Voice, is a young man who has apraxia of speech and is a huge advocate for AAC. Hold My Words and T. Moreno SLP are 2 moms of AAC users who share wonderful information. And Mateo Moreno AAC is an AAC user himself that actually presents around the country to both professionals and schools about using AAC. Some resources that I would love to share with you, and that would be great for you to share with professionals if they do want extra training in AAC. The first is called Stepping into AAC. It's available at www.angelman.org/steppingintooAAC. This is an online self-paced course that is specifically written for parents, and it's all free, which is wonderful. So there are 20 modules in this course, and you can do that on your own time at your own pace. At Alt+Shift, we also have an online module-based course called Building Blocks to Autonomous Communication that is available on our website, altshift.education. This course has 7 blocks or modules that are also self-paced, and it's also free. These modules were written for both educators and parents and family members. The last resource is the Michigan Disability Rights Coalition, mymdrc.org. They have a wonderful assistive technology lending library that is available for Michigan families to use, and they will loan devices. They also can come give you device demonstrations and help you with funding. So another wonderful resource to check out. So just to review those 5 areas of advice were: get comfortable, keep it out and available, model language, encourage but don't require, and find your team. So finally, the last question that we asked to our parents: if you could go back to when your child was first introduced to AAC, what is something you would tell yourself or something you wish you would have known? So our first parent said it won't stop her from gaining words. Our daughter can now vocalize a few things like more, no, hi, bye, etc., and I never thought she would. She now sings with us as well as will try any word we ask her to. I was worried that by using AAC, she would never try to talk. The second parent: I wish I would have understood it didn't need to happen, or it didn't need to be used a certain way. Communication can happen without full sentences. The device does not need to look like the default setup. You can truly customize it in whichever way works best for your child. And finally, I love this one. I would have given myself and my daughter some grace. So again, AAC is a big learning curve. Giving ourselves grace as parents and caregivers to be able to learn this alongside them is a huge piece of our AAC journey. So thank you so much for listening to this. If you are interested in learning more about Alt+Shift, you can find us online at altshift.education, on Facebook at Alt+Shift EDU Michigan, or on Instagram at Alt+Shift Education. If you'd like to know more about Michigan Alliance for Families, they also are available on social media on Facebook or Instagram at Michigan Alliance for Families, and also on YouTube. And their website is michiganallianceforfamilies.org. Here is a little bit more about Michigan Alliance for Families and their funding, as well as their website and phone number if you'd like to contact them. Thank you again, and I hope you found this helpful.